Hi, and welcome to Neat USA. My name is Paul Hart, and I'll be your host tonight. We here at Neat USA, we were looking to expand your viewer experience. So what Neat USA has done is added a new variety show, and I'm your host tonight. We're looking to bring you a variety of topics, things that we think would affect you and your community. So I look forward to bringing you these new shows, new topics, new guests, and maybe addressing your concerns and looking at people and activities that affect you and your neighborhood. So this is my initial show, and I hope you enjoy it tonight. Tonight's guest is a good friend of mine. I've been knowing him for a long time. He's been more like a brother to me. He works at Essex County Juvenile Detention Center in Newark, New Jersey. His name is Ray Clark, and he is the youth advocate there. I'm really looking forward to tonight's show. Tonight's show, we're going to focus on our youth. He's a youth advocate at Essex County Juvenile Detention Center. So the topic tonight and the focus is going to be today's youth, where they headed. And it's very important that we talk about today's youth because they're the generation. They are our future. So are they bad kids, or are they just making bad choices? And I think that that's something that we should think about. It's something that I want to put out there. So I want to introduce you to my guest, my buddy, Ray Clark. Ray.
Thank you, Paul.
All right. Pleasure.
It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, great. So, Ray, you are the youth advocate at Essex County Juvenile Detention Center. Why don't you tell us what a youth advocate is and what do you do there at the detention center?
Well, specifically, my job is to field their concerns and grievances. In this country, the United States is the only country where inmates, the incarcerated, have rights. My job is to stand up for the in-house rights. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not legal aid, I have nothing to do with their case outside of the facility. Right. But while they're in the facility, they have a right to be treated a certain way. They have a right to warmth from a cold building, protection from one another, nourishing meals, clean clothes, medical attention when necessary. They have specific rights, and it's my job is to make sure that they're always adhered to.
Okay, all right. But let me back up a second and ask you this. So you're advocating for their rights, but how did you get this position? What about you? What about you that made you the youth advocate? Why not anybody else? I mean, tell me a little bit about you, your experience.
Well, I've worked in the field of corrections for over 25 years now. I guess a sad thing to say is that some of these kids, I've had their parents in corrections. I've worked at the Essex County Jail in Newark. I've been director of operations of a 600-bed halfway house in Newark, and we would facilitate inmates with 15 months or less on their sentence to come to the halfway house, and they received an abundance of different things to help them moving forward. Some life skills, drug and alcohol treatment where it was warranted, work release after a certain point. So all of these things were put in place to help the incarcerated people moving forward.
Okay. So you were in corrections. You were a correction officer before.
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, what's the difference between an adult detention center and a juvenile detention center? Is there a difference?
Oh, it's a big difference. The whole system, the juvenile system, is adjudicated in family court, where the adult system is adjudicated in your regular court system. Okay. The juvenile system is predicated to try to get the inmate, the resident, back with their family unit. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that they are exonerated from punishment. Right. There's facilities that they could be sentenced to deal with whatever infraction of the law that they have made. But it is of the utmost concern to try to reunite the kid with the family in hopes that whatever transgression that they did can be looked upon, corrected, in the hopes of having the kid grow and be a better citizen.
Okay. Well, and let me make sure we understand. Let me make sure the audience understands. When we say juvenile, what ages are we talking about?
From 9 to 17 in the state of New Jersey.
You mean that you seen 9-year-old kids in your building?
Yes. Sad to say, there are some very young kids who are absolutely incorrigible or not out of control. Their parents have literally lost control of them, and sometimes riding through the streets, you'll see them at night, 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, 9, 10, 11-year-olds out on the street. Nothing good is going to happen for that kid once the street lights come on. Why is this kid outside? And secondly, why is there no supervision?
I understand. You know, we read so many articles about kids, and especially now the big thing is with the bullying. How big is it, do you think, the whole peer pressure aspect?
It's big and it's growing. Where there's ignorance, there is a gateway for kids to be bullied or to become the bully. These kids are on a fast track to try to get to the big time. They want to be grown before they're grown. They want to have power before they know how to utilize it. They want to be important. They want to have values without going through the steps of life. Steps being education, growth, maturity. They want to have shortcuts, right, only to find out that it doesn't work.
Okay, and when they come in, is that something? Do you get a chance to talk to them and tell them that it doesn't work? Do you have an opportunity to really come?
Well, Paul, one of the best parts of my job is that I get a chance to sit and talk with these kids. Sometimes, oftentimes one-on-one, sometimes in a group setting, and just basically discuss life, discuss their decision making, to discuss how did you get here. For an example, sometimes a kid will get into a little skirmish with another kid, and the reason was one kid claims the other one disrespected his mother.
Right.
And I seized the opportunity to let the first kid know, like, well, when you got locked up, you're disrespecting your mother. And the look on their face a lot of times is that of shock and surprise, because they never thought of it that way. Right. You know.
I mean, so many times I see kids in the street, and I've had the opportunity to sit down and talk to some of these kids. I've ministered in some of these institutions, and it's just amazing because it just seems like they're still really just good kids.
They are good kids.
And sometimes they seem like they just need a whole lot of love.
I call them angels with dirty faces. And it's so important to understand that they are kids and that there is an opportunity for redemption in their lives. Right. Our kids now, kids are still a high resource in society. Yes. What's really sad is that the kids today are up against some very tough circumstances. Life has changed from when I came along. You have kids who literally have nothing to do.
Right.
Not that there aren't things for them to do.
Right.
You know. But after school, what happens? You get out of school 2:30. Okay. What do you do between 2:30 and 6? Okay, the average parent might say, oh, well, you come home, you do some homework, blah, blah, blah. Fine. But when I came along, Paul, we had a lot of places to go where there was not only activities, constructive activities, but also with mentors, counselors, coaches, people who ran in recreation centers, places to go with things to do. Our kids get in trouble because they have not found anything interesting that's constructive to do.
So you're saying that some of the problem comes from a lack of after-school programs?
Absolutely.
lack of field trips, the kind of things that we used to do when we were kids.
But we smile at those things now. But yes, they made an impact on us. I remember taking a trip to Washington, D.C. when I was like 7 or 8 years old. I remember taking trips to New York City. I remember going to the Statue of Liberty. These are things that we could talk about in class, in our community, with our friends. It's like, did you go there? Did you? And these are points of interest. These are things that help us grow. These are things that show us when we were young people, like, wow, I want to do something to be a part of all that life has to offer.
Right.
I want to be a part of these things.
Right.
You know, I played basketball in high school and college, and I had a very good career. And in that career, I was able to go, I would like to say, coast to coast and border to border.
Yes.
Through athletics. But the experience of seeing places, meeting people other than my own, from my community, learning about things, let's just say being in awe
Right.
of what's available in America helped shape my life.
Wow. You know, you said that when you were growing up, you played basketball. You know, recently, I was sitting in a park one day talking to to a good friend of mine, and it was a Saturday afternoon, and I recognized there weren't a lot of kids in the park.
Right.
So our kids don't even go to the park anymore. They spend a lot of time in the house.
You know, what's sad is that the summer leagues in the community, where it's almost an institution, you know, it's in the summertime, have a, let's just say, a disparaging connotation to them now. Not because of the game of basketball,
Right.
but because of the competitiveness within the groups. A lot of these teams are comprised of gangs, gang members, this group against that group and whatnot. Okay, then they play the game. The problem isn't the game. The problem is once the game ends, somebody lost. And the team that wins carries this bravado,
Right.
the shakedown, the laughter, the teasing, to the point where the team that has lost sadly isn't mature enough to understand it was just a game. I just didn't have enough points on the scoreboard. We live to see another day. No, they don't like being teased. These are very sensitive kids. They have not fully grown and developed emotionally to be able to deal with those things.
Right.
So what's the answer? I'm gonna run over to my car, get my gun, and shoot the park up.
Wow.
And then at the conclusion of that, they'll do away with the program.
Right.
So it's sad to say that a lot of bad things come out of good intentions, but that's where our kids are right now. A lot of them.
You brought up a good point. I wanted to ask you about that. Do you find a lot of the kids that come in and out of your facility are members of gangs, have been in gangs? How big of influence do you think the gangs have on what's going on in and out, inside and outside the juvenile detention centers?
It's a major influence. It's a fact of life now that, well, let me just say this first. Gangs aren't new. Gangs aren't new.
Right.
But the overall impact of gangs is different than when it was when I came along. There were gangs then, but back when I was coming along in the 60s and 70s, the gang would allow you to choose what you wanted to do. The gangs would allow you, if you wanted to play sports, the gangs would go and play sports. If you wanted to be the educated kid, going to the library, going to the museum, well, fine. You know, if you wanted to join the gang, it was your choice.
Right.
You know, I used to walk all over the city of Newark playing basketball, all communities, never had a problem. But now, the gangs draft you. The gang says, kid with the library book, you're gonna join our gang or else. They don't allow the kids to have a choice. That's one of the sad parts about the conditions of our community today.
Wow, wow. So the gangs, you're saying the gangs almost make the kids
Absolutely.
a part of that?
Yes.
How many children do you find in your you mentioned guns, and I don't read a lot about violence with guns and with juveniles. Is that something? Is that something that's prevalent?
It's very prevalent. It's very sad to say, but it's very real. Guns are power. Guns are power for the powerless. Guns gives balance to the kid who really can't fight or can't make any other kind of statement to preserve himself. The gun makes the smallest child powerful.
Yes.
I'm not scared of the kid. I'm scared of that weapon that he has.
Right. So these gangs become like family to these kids?
And yes, in a sense that is one of the saddest selling points of all, because they're not family. They are exactly what they are, a gang. Family doesn't put you out there to get hurt. Family doesn't put you out there to hurt someone else. Family doesn't have the hierarchy sitting back and sending the young people out to sell drugs or commit crimes or whatnot and bring back the bounty, giving the kids the risk.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Knowing that they're an adult.
Right.
If they get caught, the charges and the consequences are much more steep
Yes.
than for the kids. And they sell the kids on doing this in the name of family.
Wow. Now, you just brought up another great thing. You said the word drugs, and we haven't talked about that. How influential is the drugs and the drug game? Do you see a lot of the kids come in because of something to do with drugs? And I can't imagine, and you help me out, if is drug addiction something that you see a lot in the juvenile system?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The greater percentage of kids is either drug use or drug sales. And I'm not just talking about in the inner city.
Right.
This is something that's spread out across the landscape of communities in this country. Drug use, drug sale. The good kids, they start out being with the experiment. They start out trying to solve their curiosity. They start out trying to fit in with the cool kids, only to find out later on, once the chemical starts doing what the chemical does, that they have entered some uncharted waters.
Right.
And some things that are happening physically to them, emotionally to them, that they didn't plan on. Right. And then they find themselves hanging with people, doing the same chemical, the same drugs that they're doing. And now they're in a seedy place in society that they never thought they'd be in.
Wow.
And the other side of the coin is the kids who find the economics of drugs, where it's like, it's big money, it's fast money. And this is with people who don't see themselves making good money in any other way.
Wow. You know, I've had the opportunity to sit down and talk to a lot of the teenagers. And, you know, I minister in some of the prisons in Essex County, and it always amazes me that these are not slow kids. These are not kids that are not smart. I sit down and I talk to kids 18, 19, 20 years old, and they're very educated. And I always ask them, like, why? And a lot of it always seems to me like just trying to fit in.
Well, Paul, I'd like to tell you, one day I'd like for you to come to my facility, and I'd like to take you on a tour, because that's something my boss has asked me to do. From time to time, we conduct tours for different groups and offices throughout the county, church groups and so forth. And my point is, one of the places of great impact is when we go down to our school, fully accredited high school, and to see the work, the artwork, the poetry, the rap music, the lyrics and so forth that are prominently displayed on our walls. I see it every day, Paul, and I'm telling you, it warms my heart, because yes, this is proof, fact, that God doesn't make junk.
Wow.
And that these kids have talent. These kids are worth the investment of time and interest.
Yes.
Because that alone shows that they have abilities, they have some skills. They're not fully honed,
Right.
but they are not without some talents and skills.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's sad. You know what I remember sitting here thinking? I remember there used to be a program on years ago called Scared Straight, where they bring like young kids in and teenagers in prisons, and they would kind of have the criminals try to scare them. Do they still have?
Ours is called Consequences to Crime.
Okay.
And you don't scare these kids, right? They come, I think it's every other Saturday. We bring a group of kids in. You can't scare them because with almost a half of the group, they see their friends.
Right.
But what we definitely try to do is teach them. We try to sit down, we take them on a tour, we let them see cells, we show them what the unit looks like. But afterwards, instead of all that hollering and screaming, we sit down and talk to them. It's like, well, what are you doing with your life?
Right.
It's about talking to them and not at them. Sometimes parents have a very short fuse because they have so many other things of responsibility that they're trying to do in taking care of their kids that they need their kids just to be good kids, especially single parents. Right? But it's monumentally difficult to do because until mother gets home, what does this child do? He's a product of the community.
Right.
He's fair game for the community to, again, have something to do. Right? So, this is one of the sad points of the reality, in my opinion, that exists today, that these kids don't have enough constructive things to do on a daily basis.
You know, I was talking to somebody, I think a couple days ago, and I was telling them about this show and what we were going to talk about. And I heard somebody say, well, I blame it on the parents. What do you say to that?
I say certainly parents have a lion's share of the responsibility, but it's not easy for them, and I don't want to make excuses for them, but the bottom line is you can't be everywhere at once. Parents have a tough time today. You know, the whole economic climate of our society definitely lends itself to a parent's being able to promote or provide constructive things for them to do. Things cost money. You want to join the library, maybe not a lot of money, but things cost money. Back and forth on the bus, things cost money. Again, looking back on my life, I was able to walk through communities. It wasn't dangerous. Forget what the bus fare was. That's what it was back then. But the bottom line is, me and my friends, we walked most places, and there was still things going on in the community. I mean, there was bad things happening, but the overall climate of the streets was that you could walk from one end of the town to the other, and pretty much a element of safety.
Yeah.
So
I tell you, things certainly have changed.
Oh,
it's a tough world we live in right now, and it's a tough world for the kids right now. You know, I mean, from what I see, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's tough because kids have to grow up so much quicker nowadays.
Yes, they do.
The world has changed so much. They see so much on TV. Sometimes I sit down and I look at videos and I turn the channel, you know, some of the things that I see. So it's tough again. You know, I wanted to ask you, we haven't discussed, what's the ratio with women, I mean, the women versus the men?
Well, I don't have specific figures, but I can tell you there are female gangs. You have the young girls who are despondent for their own reasons and from their families who join gangs as the female branch of that gang for the exact same reasons. And what's really sad is how the older, more mature people would take advantage of them.
Yes.
Again, in the name of family. And by the time they reach a point in their life where they realize that their life isn't really going anywhere, sadly, some of them, many of them get pregnant, bring another child into the world. They're not equipped to raise a child. They're kids themselves. A lot of these kids are raised by their grandmothers. Their parents is in the streets. Some of them, their fathers or mothers may be incarcerated. It's just such a tough set of circumstances. But here's the thing. We have kids that enroll in colleges every year. So we're not talking about everybody, all kids are living this life of handicap. We are saying that there could be more kids who could be on a road or better road to life should some things come into place. But again, that's just the circumstances of our life.
Okay, all right. You know, Ray, I appreciate you being here tonight. We're getting near the end of the show. So I want to ask you, as the advocate in the Essex County Juvenile Facility Detention Center, what would you tell the parents out there listening? What would you tell them that they should be looking out for? What should they know? And give me about 2 minutes. What should they know? What should they be looking to do for their children?
Good question, tough question, Paul. I'm not here to involve parenting skills.
Yes.
That's personal.
Okay.
What I will say is, as a parent, be a parent. Your child is not your friend.
Yes.
There needs to be that distinction between the parent and the child. Love your child, but don't fall in love with your child. No is the other half of yes. Be prepared. When the answer is no, let it be no. If the answer is yes, let it be yes. Be honest with your kids. Sit down with your kids. Sometimes you have to take those technical things from them and talk with them. Everybody's down here doing this. Right. Kids are losing out on all important development of their social and communication skills. That's more as important as learning how to read, write, and count.
Yes.
You got to be able to talk to people. Here's something that's very simple that's missing from our kids. They just don't smile. They're not happy, and you can't hide that. So for as many problems that we have, we need as many solutions as we can come up with. But I would say the fundamental thing is don't give up on kids. Just because they wear their pants below their belt line, they still are someone worthy to be loved and to be saved.
All right, thank you. Ray, I want to thank you for coming on the show tonight. I've certainly learned a lot. I hope you at home learned a lot. I look forward to your comments, your questions, or any topics that you want to hear about. Ray's done a great job. Again, we at Neat USA want to keep bringing you these shows. I just wanted to give you an address in case you have any comments or topics. The address is 1115 Cooper Avenue, and that's in Teaneck, New Jersey, 07666. Again, the address is 1115 Cooper Avenue, Teaneck, New Jersey, 07666. The phone number, again, if you have comments or questions or topics that you want to see, is 862-220-7897, or you can email me at Paul E. Hart 33, Paul E. Hart 33 at gmail.com. So I want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. Ray Clark, I want to thank you for all the information you've given us. I'll tell you something, I really learned a lot. So once again, all my people out there in the Neat USA network, I want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. I look forward to seeing you again on our next show. Please come and join us. And lastly, I want to end with this. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Have a wonderful day and keep smiling.